All right, welcome back to Turnbull Garage. So today I have got the parts I needed to finish this engine. Yes, we're going to be carrying on with the rebuilding of the Suzuki Carry engine and the salvaging or the rescue of the Suzuki Carry. As you know from the previous video, I got a lot done on here, but I was basically stuck until I got the valve lash shims that to finish this engine up. And yeah, that's what's in here. As well, I've got a bearing here. This is for the serpentine belt tensioner. 14 bucks off Amazon instead of going ahead and buying a complete tensioner. They're pretty expensive, so we'll get into that as well. As well, I've actually gone ahead and I've taken the intake manifold apart and cleaned it up off camera, and the throttle body. As you probably saw at the very beginning, it was really corroded inside, and I found a couple of surprises that I'm going to dig into. So let's get right to it. I'm super excited, so yeah, let's go. All right, so I've pulled this intake, the throttle body apart, and because there was corrosion, and what I did, I pulled the butterfly out, the shaft and everything, and cleaned out the corrosion from the bore. I'm going to do it a little bit more, but I've realized that on the side of it is I believe this would be an idle air control valve, basically, or a bypass valve. So this will control your idle speed by limiting how much air goes through. And as you can see in here, the corrosion was pretty bad. So I'm going to open this up and clean all that corrosion out so that it's nice and clean, and then reassemble this whole throttle body, put it back onto the intake manifold, and put that aside. I want to get the space cleaned up, and then we're going to get onto the shims. So I'm going to go ahead. I've already pulled this apart. As you see, I'm going to take these 3 screws off here and pull this out. This will be some sort of a spindle that'll open and close. So I'm going to pop this off and see what it's like inside. That, I am so glad I took this apart. That is really bad. Let's dump all the crap out of there. Holy cow. All right, so looking in here, yeah, I'm just going to have to just take my little wire wheel on my Dremel and just give this a good clean all inside here. And that should get this totally cleaned up. I may actually also take this off here because it looks like there's something inside there that I'm not sure what that does, but let's pop this off as well. Well, I'm being very careful here because I can tell this is some sort of an adjustment. Looks like you put an Allen screw in here, and you can tell it's got an oval hole, or so this can be adjusted. I think this is also probably a rough idle speed adjustment. So I'm going to put a scribe mark across here so that I can make sure this goes in exactly the same place before I loosen this off and pop this out. So I'm actually going to tighten this screw back up and make sure that this is marked very well before I go ahead and start disturbing it. All right, so I've just scribed a mark across here so it'll go back the same. Let's see, yeah, that's gonna be pretty tight. So we'll just get a Allen wrench in here. There we go. And I think this, if I swivel and pull, this should come out. Yep, there we go. Okay, so this piece that I pulled out here, this I believe is a sort of like a heat activated valve. This is, I believe, some sort of a bimetallic coil that when this heats up, this will swivel. It's quite delicate, so this is something, if you do open this up, you're going to want to be really careful. But I think that's what this is once it warms up, this will expand and adjust this little butterfly valve internally to adjust your, it could be a choke actually, what this might be. But anyway, carrying on. All right, so I figured out where that little split collar goes, and it goes on this side here, and it acts as a bit of a support. So you'll want to put that together, and then that'll go inside here. There's an O-ring on here. I don't have a new O-ring. I'm going to put a little bit of O-ring lube on here, which will swell the O-ring up a little bit and also help it go in and seal. So I've cleaned up the bore in here. I've cleaned up there. Everything was really quite gross. Anyway, so I'm gonna put this back together, tighten that up, and then put my solenoid back on. All right, so I got this all back together. It can only really go one way. The bolts are not symmetrical, so you can't get anything reversed, which is nice. So the next thing I do is get my throttle shaft back in here. So what I'm going to do is put a little bit of grease or oil on the seals, and then I will put my butterfly back on. The one thing with the butterfly you're going to make sure you do, these screws are really small. The last thing you want to do is have one of these screws come loose and fall into your engine and potentially damage it quite badly. Is put some Loctite. I will put some blue Loctite on here so that they do not come back off. Sometimes when you do one of these, the bolts for the butterfly will come through and then they're actually staked. There'll be a little notch hammered into them so that they can't come back out. They can't loosen off. I don't like to do that because if you ever have to get them off again, you'll never do it. So I will use blue Loctite. So anyway, I'm just going to go ahead. I don't think I'll do it on camera. Well, I'm able to do a time lapse and go ahead and put this back together. All right, so the butterfly is in, the throttle shaft is in. On this end, before you go and put your sensor back on, there is a plastic washer that goes on here, sort of a seal Teflon thing. Then a metal washer. And then you've got a circlip that will go on there. Once those are on, you throw your throttle position sensor on. All right, that's all back together. One thing with the position sensor, these two slots, this is adjustable, so I tighten it up. You could see witness marks where the screws had made marks on the plastic. I put it right back exactly where it was. So next thing to do would be to bolt this onto the intake manifold. All right, let's get to it. Let's open up this little bag of parts we got here. This will have my two shims. Now, I don't remember which shim goes where, to be honest. So I'm just going to have to put one in one and see if my clearances come out correct. So here we go. Some genuine Suzuki parts. It's always so nice when you get new parts from Japan. You wait so long. And there we go. A little bit different, actually. They got numbers on both sides and a hole in the side. They're a little bit different, but anyway, that slides in nice. I'm going to put a 282 in that one. There we go. 280. So there's my shims. I'll put my cam back in, tighten up these bolts, and then check my valve clearance. All right, so the camshaft's in. The back side of the lobe is against the lifters there, or the tappets. I'm looking for a clearance of 7 to 9 thousandths of an inch. So let's just jump right to 9 right here. See how this fits. Doesn't fit. Doesn't fit. 8 thousandths of an inch. Nope. Yep, 8 fits, so that's good. Let's just see if this one is 7. Hopefully this is 7, otherwise I'm going to have to switch those around. Let's get the 7th out. And it doesn't quite fit. Okay, I'm going to swap those shims around. Okay, I got those swapped around. Now let's try an 8. Hold on. Get an 8 in here. That is pretty snug. So I would say that is 8. Let's go with an 8. Nope, 7 it is. So that's great. That means my clearances are in. They're all good now. So let's get this last cap on here. We'll torque this thing. We'll torque all these down and set our timing. Okay, it's time to torque these up. These are torqued to 96 inch-pounds, and you're supposed to do them in increments of 32. So you do 32, and then 64, and then 96. And you do it in a sequence. You would start, let's see, I think you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then these 5 bolts are done 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That makes any sense. So I'm going to go around. I've already torqued them once to 32. Now I'm going to go to 64 and then 96. Those are now torqued. The next thing I'm going to do is set the timing. So if you remember, I had this engine. It's not a top dead center. That way I knew I could rotate these camshafts around and not worry about damaging the valves. But now it's time to get the timing chain and everything set up in here. All right, let's look at the timing marks. So I've got this engine laying on its side, so hopefully won't be too confusing. Anyway, the camshafts have got a little V on one side and a little notch on the other. The notch lines up with a little ball on the casting, a little mark. You can see that there. And then these will line up with the colored links in your chain. So that's the camshaft timing. So I set the camshaft timing first. So for the crankshaft, what you do is you line up your key groove with your notch right here. And also, if you look on the back side, there is a notch. That again is where your chain will go. So your colored link should go on the bottom here. So I'm going to set the camera up, put this chain on, and then hook up my tensioner, and hopefully we got her on here. All right, got my new chain. And you can see there's a couple of colored links. So obviously they're going to start here. So I'll put them, try and get myself into position so I'm not blocking your view here. Looks like, yeah, okay. I got to take this off here. All right, so I had to take both the tensioners off to get this chain on. It'll just fit on. So if you put the chain onto your links here with your colored links right on your marks, and you can slide this right on with your color link on the back here. So I got everything on there. So the next thing for me to do is go ahead and put my put my chain guides on. We'll start with this one. Nowhere in my book does it give me the torque settings for these, so I'll just go from past experience working on engines and make them tight enough. Next thing will be my adjustable. This is one that actually will adjust the tension on, so take that bolt pushing out of there. That should just slide in like that. There we go. Now I put my little bracket on here, pin out this little tensioner here. I'll pull that out. I like to call it the grenade pin because that's what will hold the spring inside there. Although I don't know if there's a spring so much as there's it's oil pressure pushes it out. There we go. That should do it. Now I'll just grab some pliers, and so I'll pull that little pin out of there. There we go. You saw that snap. So that is set. Timing chain is all set now. So now the next thing I can do is put my timing cover on and then go ahead and start working on the bottom of the engine. So that'll be the next step. All right, so the next thing we do is throw this cover on. So what we want to do is put some silicone around obviously all these edges, but also on the face of these two here. That's really important. And you can see I cleaned out all these grooves here from the stuff that was in there last time. So anyway, let's put this on. Okay, let's get that on there. Let's pop this onto the engine. Now when you drop this on, you're going to want to line this up with these flats on here is what drives your oil pump. Just want to make sure that's lined up. Then it's just a matter of sliding all your bolts in. One thing to note, I think it's this one. Nope. Down here is where a lifting lug goes on. So make sure you have that one on there. A little bit of sliptivity and that should go on there. There we go. Now these are all going to get tightened to 97 inch-pounds. So I'll just go around and loosely tighten them all up. And I won't lie, I seem to be missing a bolt from there. It's obviously kicking around somewhere. Okay, that's got all those tightened up. I'm going to go ahead and just see if I can search for this bolt that's missing. Can't be far. All right, I found this bolt. It actually, I don't know if you can see, yeah, you can see it. It was attached to this bracket, which goes here. So I actually just took this bolt out and put that bracket in. I'm not sure which way this ground strap is orientated. I put it on like that for now, but that should be good. So the next thing to work on is the oil pan side. Well, we've got to put the oil pickup on and then the pan. All right, so I got a new O-ring on the pickup tube. You want to make sure you do that. And this is really easy. Should be held on with just these 3 bolts. Just make sure that O-ring doesn't slide out. No, that's good. I couldn't find any torque specs on these, so it'll be basically tight, not too tight. I'll probably go the same as what I did for because of the same size threads. I'll do the same 97 inch-pounds for the for the timing cover. All right, so with that, I got all my oil pan bolts labeled, nuts and bolts. I got the oil pan, so the next thing we'll do is put silicone all around here, bolt our oil pan on. Okay, so what I did is I actually put all the oil on the pan. So when I put this on, it'll mate up perfectly. Anyway, it's going to be 96 inch-pounds. Get this in here. Pretty easy to do when you've got studs that stick out. Anyway, you can see how that's done. Pretty basic. I'm going to go ahead and tighten these all up to 97 inch-pounds. All right, so with the oil pan on and that silicone curing up, the next thing I'm going to do is install the water pump. So water pump is pretty simple. 4 bolts. Just put a new O-ring in here that comes with it. Also, just make sure your surfaces are good and clean. Well, that said, I think I'm going to give that a wipe down. That looks a little bit suspect. Actually, it was pretty clean. It also comes with a new O-ring, which will go on the pipe that goes into here. Yeah, I need one more bolt. Where'd it go? There it is. I could not find any torque spec for the water pump to block, so I will just do it Probably the same as the other ones, 97. Actually, probably a little bit tighter. These are bigger bolts. To be honest, I think I'm just going to tighten them by hand, get them to where I think's right. There. That takes care of that. Okay, next thing I'm actually going to do is install this water pump pipe here. Which goes into the pipe, because once the intake manifold is on, I think this stuff's hard to get to. So I got a new O-ring on here, some O-ring lube. That should just, there we go, press on there. As for tight, tight enough. Okay, the next thing I got to do is definitely get that intake manifold on. All right, I don't know what I was thinking. This is the exhaust manifold side. So, yeah, this goes on here like that. So, but with that said, I kind of wanted to get this broken shield off, but I might not need to because it is on there with one bolt. Maybe I'll just put new bolts in here and call it a day and install it the way it is. All right, so I have run into another problem. This is the wrong intake manifold gasket. There's the intake manifold. It is a flat type gasket that I need. So with that said, this is going to be a bit of a delay. I'm going to have to order a correct one. That is very unfortunate. I can put this water pump housing on right here. I can get that put on, but yeah, that really sucks. Yeah, well, I guess I might have to pause this video about here. All right, so I guess the next thing I should do is put the cam cover on, start sealing this engine up. If you haven't already, you should cover up your intake ports and your exhaust ports so you don't get any foreign stuff get into there and potentially damage your engine. So when you do this, one thing you're going to want to know, because I got this head machined, it's actually sitting slightly lower and there's a bit of a lip right here. Regardless, you want to put some silicone right on this seam here, both sides, and also on these corners here where the valve cover will go through. So yeah, on the valve cover, it's got these little half moon things. So you want to make sure on the corners that you put some silicone on there. But anyway, let's, before I do that, let's get my bolts. There's one long bolt in the middle. All right, we're going to tighten these up to 96 inch-pounds. Okay, that'll do that. Next thing I'll do is actually throw my spark plugs back in. All right, spark plugs are in, oil filter or oil cap on, PCV valve back in. I suppose I could throw my coils on here. I think I'll hold off. I'll just put the screws in that hold everything in place. And yeah, the last thing I think I can do is put the crank seal on and the crank pulley. Why didn't you guys tell me that I missed that bolt there? I was putting all these in, found one extra one. So yeah, there's 6 valve cover bolts. 2, 4, 5, and 6. All right, next thing I'm going to do is install my crankshaft seal. So it's basically going to fit right here. And what I do is I take a socket that's basically the exact same size. Yeah, that's in. Okay, so on my crankshaft, on my pulley, see if you can see this right there. What I did, I put this in my lathe and polished it. There's a little bit of a groove where the old lip seal was wearing on it. But anyway, that's what I've got on there, is polish that up. So I'm going to get a little bit of oil on here. Definitely don't want to force this. It'll go nice. There we go. So what I'll do is I usually hit this at an impact, but being the flywheel is exposed, I might be able to stop the engine from spinning and actually torque it, because there is a torque spec. 72 foot-pounds is what this is supposed to be. So I'll see if I can jam this engine up so that I can tighten that up to 72 foot-pounds. All right, looks like I can get a screwdriver on the back here to jam this. So let's see if I can torque this to 72. Oh, maybe not. Oh, I can't quite hold it. Yeah, I couldn't quite get that. I'll hit it with the impact later. I've never had issues with that. I just slipped the intake manifold on in place so that I could get this pipe lined up so that I know it will go on easy later. And all these other lines, I got to figure out where they all go, just so that if there's anything I can do to sort of speed things up now, that's what I'm going to do, because I'm going to be waiting for a while. All right, so that's pretty much going to do it for this video. I got as much as I could done, actually quite a bit done, but I'm pretty disappointed these gaskets are wrong, or this gasket on the intake manifold is wrong, because I really want to get this done, get it on the ground, and bolt that transmission to it, and get this truck running again. But this is going to put me back probably about a week and a half. That's the way it goes with these engines. Sometimes there's different variations, and I guess I got a part that's for a slightly different truck, but that's the way she goes. Anyway, I hope you learned from this video, learned something, and enjoying following this little journey. Yeah, thoughts and comments down below. Think about subscribing if you haven't already. As soon as I get these parts, I'll get another video out as soon as I can. I hope to wrap this up and get it running. So thanks a lot for watching, and yeah, have yourself a great day.